As we look down through the telescope of time, one of my particular favorites has to do with the evolution of children's books, particularly in the 19th century, where we begin in the early 1800s with little books that were highly moralistic or instructional. And we have titles like Scripture Stories for Young Children, or Infant Hymns, or Child in the Bulrushes. Obviously, they were done for moralistic or instructional purposes. They were made for small hands. The illustration process was either woodcuts or wood engravings, and usually they didn't have a whole lot of detail and certainly no color. It wasn't until the middle part of the century that we begin to have a little bit more definition in the illustrations, and we begin to have titles like What a Mother Remembers About Her Girlhood and that sort of thing. We also have the beginnings of some of the series books. Today, we talk about Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, that sort of thing. A century earlier, we had Oliver Optic, who visited Europe, and we had Rollo in Paris, a whole series of books that Rollo did. About that same time period, we begin to have some color illustration. Here we have the fate of poor Molly Goosey, and lots of color, obviously hand coloring from this time period. It wasn't until really the latter part of the 19th century that the explosion of color took on, and also people began to get very innovative, very creative in the kinds of things that they were producing for children. In these cases, we have books that were printed on linen so that children wouldn't or couldn't tear them. That's towards the 1870s, 1890s. And at the same time, we have things going on like a railroad ABC book that looks like a train engine coming at you. Or we have the Soldier ABC book that from 1898 or 99 that has Theodore Roosevelt out front of his Rough Riders charging up San Juan Hill. In that same time period, we begin to have some of the great classics that have tumbled into the 20th century. Randolph Caldecott, for whom our color illustrated books are named, the awards are named, was from that time period, as well as Kate Greenaway, or things derived from Kate Greenaway, with, again, lots of color and lots of happiness going on. We also have Lewis Carroll and Frances Hodgson Burnett. All of these classics toward the end of the 19th century, when children became children and began to have lots of fun with lots of color. These sorts of things tumbled into the 20th century, and we'll talk about some of those books next time.